Am I the asshole for refusing to disclose how much I make to my boyfriend? My boyfriend and I have been dating almost a year, and he doesn't know how much I make. I've been taken advantage of financially by boyfriends in the past, so I keep what I make and signs of any wealth out of sight. I don't have a lot of obvious expensive things, but my bags and clothes are expensive niche brands, and I have a lot of toys like an RV, spider bike, and some other things. He hasn't caught on to the fact that they are mine since I usually leave them at my parents' place since they use the RV more. He isn't wealthy, and he's told me he makes around $60K, and I don't feel like letting him know what I make. I pay for most of our dates, but I usually split it, and we never go anywhere fancy. He's been annoyed that I will never discuss money with him or really what I do for work. I tell him I work in tech, which he feels like isn't enough. I'm still trying to decide whether I should trust him with any more details around what I make, since money immediately changes a lot of people's behavior. He has gotten mad over this, as he has been trying to get me to disclose what I make and exactly what I do. Now in the comments, you've been dating for a year and he doesn't know what you do? Maybe he suspects something underworldly. Set the man's mind at ease. If you can't trust him after a year, aren't you wasting both your and his time? And if he changes once he knows, then maybe you waited too long to disclose. You're the asshole. We all spend such a huge amount of time at work, it's literally a part of us. Many people spend most of their time at work, not including sleeping. I can't imagine never telling my partner how work was and what happened, or what I'm doing in general. You've been dating long enough that he should at least know what you do. You are hiding a lot from him, which is a form of dishonesty. And honestly, since it's been almost a year, you should either trust him enough to tell him what you make or break it off. I'd say softly, you're the asshole. I'm waiting for a post from him saying, I suspect my girlfriend is a hitman or a drug cartel boss. She has money to throw but hides it from me and shies away from discussing anything about her work or wealth. You're the asshole. Not even being able to confide and talk to someone who supposedly cares about you, about what you do for a living, sends up red flags. Knowing what your partner does for a living is part of the foundation of trust couples use for a relationship. He can go one of two ways, either be a gold digger or not care, but it's all about trust. He's obviously okay with what he earns, and if he isn't emasculated by whatever it is you do, why worry? So why take out what is previous experiences and trauma on someone after you've dated them for a year? You should probably get some professional help. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for causing my subordinates to get divorced? On Navy ships, there are separate quarters where they sleep and head restroom facilities for each gender. If you were of the opposite sex in the wrong place, there were consequences and they were not pretty. The Navy takes that very seriously, especially when it comes to sexual relations with each other. A reactor mechanical guy and a reactor electrical girl were caught having sex in a storeroom by security. They are married, but not to each other. I did not appreciate this kind of behavior. I reduced them both to the next inferior pay grade and took an additional amount of money away from each for 2 months for the offense. I ordered them to call their spouses to tell them why they were not going to be getting the amount of money they would have been expecting and why that was the case. So yeah, was I the asshole? Because those people are quite pissed that they lost their rank and got divorced. Some people in my personal life told me that I took this too far and I shouldn't have gotten involved. Now in the comments, I bet their spouses appreciated knowing, not the asshole. As a military spouse who gives her husband a wide berth of trust, love, and respect, thank you for doing this, OP. Being in this life requires a lot of sacrifice, trust, and time spent away from friends and family. To have those sacrifices mean nothing by those under your command, it's what they deserve, to be honest, with their spouses. The spouses may not know it, but you gave them a great gift. Yeah, as a veteran, I agree. I just wish our spouses were so honest about getting with Jody back home while we're deployed. Not the asshole. You didn't cause anything. The people cheating on their spouses were the cause of all their own woes. They got off light. Adultery in the military is a crime that is punishable by dishonorable discharge and confinement. Anyone saying you're the asshole has never had dealings with the expectations of a military career. Morality and ethics are part of the job. People have been booted for far less. Deceptions and lying reflect on the individual, and these are trusted professionals. Not the arsehole in this line of work. Not the arsehole. Military vessel, military rules, military discipline. That's all anyone needs to know. Although why you felt we civilians would be able to judge you fairly, I have no idea. Our next post is titled, Am I the arsehole for ditching my girlfriend for one night while away on holiday? So my partner and I are going to my hometown just after Christmas. Her family is all in Japan. We are spending 2 weeks, of which most will be spent with my family, and a few days of us exploring by ourselves. My high school friends want to make plans to catch up and get an Airbnb and spend the night playing games, etc. I asked my girlfriend if she minds if I don't bring her along, as none of my other friends are bringing their partners, and it changes the dynamic somewhat. English isn't her first language, so a lot of the games that we'd like to play would be too difficult for her. I gave her the option that she could stay with my family, whom she has met before, or she could stay with my high school friend's girlfriend, whom we have stayed with before and we will probably stay with for one night again. She blew up, now saying she isn't coming on the trip anymore, etc., etc. I then offer to instead fly to my hometown a couple days earlier than originally planned, and catch up with my friends, and then I'll pick her up from the airport. This too is not an option apparently, and she maintains she is no longer coming on the trip, which, by the way, I paid for half of the flight. Am I the arsehole? Now in the comments, you're the arsehole. Why would you want to bring your girlfriend on a trip where she knows no one well and is partially isolated by language, and then ditch her for the night? If the games you want to play wouldn't be good for her, the inclusive thing to do would be to play different games. OP also offered to go before her so he wouldn't need to ditch her for a night, but that wasn't acceptable either. He gave her a lot of options, and she shot them all down, so how is he an arsehole? It's not even about the games. He offered to change the plans after it became clear she was upset. That would have been a better suggestion had he come up with it first. Ultimately, from now on, whatever the scenario is, it's going to seem like OP wants to exclude his girlfriend from hanging out with his friends. If it's not about the games, then why are they playing games that she can't? Yeah, you're the arsehole. I mean, it was decent of you to offer to change the plans, but you didn't think this through very well. There's a huge difference between you and her staying at a friend's home versus her on her own doing it while you were bonding with the homies. Add to this that English is not her first language. If she has a hard time playing games when her boyfriend is there, she may certainly feel uncomfortable interacting with people she doesn't know very well without him there. Not the arsehole by a long, long mile. You have given her advanced notice, made several alternate arrangements and accommodations for her, and are clearly open to communication and compromise. She's behaving like a child who can't be left alone for one single night out of 2 weeks for a meaningful and rare bonding experience with your childhood friends. By saying she simply won't come on the trip instead of discussing other solutions and options, she is being quite manipulative. Please think about whether you want to be together with such a my way or the highway person, especially if this is very common behavior for her, and if she's not explaining why she feels this way. For example, if she feels anxious because she feels she can't communicate well enough on her own due to language difficulties, etc. I hear what you were saying, but what we are missing from OP's post is context of time. If this discussion happened last night, I don't think it's fair to interpret the girlfriend as not communicating. Sometimes in a discussion it's hard to verbalize why we are upset by what's been presented. This is exacerbated with language barriers. If this conversation just happened, I don't think it's unreasonable of her to need time to collect her thoughts to be able to articulate the whys behind her opposition to the proposal. We all know this sub is very slanted with its storytelling. While OP may have taken the time to nicely write out his plan here in the post, he could have originally presented it in a sloppy and careless way, leading to an emotional reaction. Doesn't mean their relationship is doomed or that she is irrational. Just that they both need to communicate better. Just my take. Now back up to the post, there is an edit. This blew up a bit. I feel like majority is saying I'm the arsehole, but there is a strong minority who disagree, so I'm glad that it's not clear-cut. To address some recurring themes, 1. She does speak English. We live in Australia, and she has worked and lived here for over 5 years. I just meant she struggles to understand new games and in general has no interest in any sort of intellectual game. 2. I would happily put her up in a private Airbnb or similar if she wanted. I didn't offer it because I'm pretty sure that she wouldn't want that either, but when we discuss it next, I will make sure that she knows that option is available. And 3. I mentioned in one comment thread that I think part of it is she's worried about why I don't want her there. She asked if we are going to get strippers, but I feel like she knows that's ridiculous. Anyway, my plan is to have another talk with her about it. I will present the solo accommodation option as well, and if she won't concede to any of it, then I guess I'll just have to bring her along, and take mental note of how uncompromising she can be. Thank you for all of your replies. I will read them all. Unexposed is titled, Am I the asshole for telling my boyfriend that if he likes his ex's food, then he should move back in with her? Basically, as the title says, today I, 26 female, was cooking fish and fries for me and my boyfriend, 30 male, and when the fish was done, he asked me if I had used curry on it. I said that I didn't, and he said that fish tastes better like that. And he asked if I remembered when one of his friend's wives cooked for us and how good it was. I said yes, and he said, well, she uses curry on it. That's how ex-wife makes it too, and it's really good. I told him, oh, well, next time then I will text her to ask her. I am the one cooking, and I'll cook however I want. If you like her food so much, you should move back in with her then. He was upset and called me dramatic. I told him I just didn't understand why he was mentioning her. A couple of days ago, they have kids, so they talk. I was cooking, and he kept giving me some sort of directions. You should add this, and you should add that. I told him that I would make it my way, and well, I saw that he was asking his ex-wife for directions on my meal, and he didn't even say that I was the one cooking. He said he was making it, and for her to explain to him the recipe. He would constantly tell me how most of the time she wouldn't even cook for him and how he would have to fend for himself. I have asked him many times if he doesn't like something to tell me, and I'll see if I can change it or he can do it himself. I was supposed to bake some cookies after dinner, and I told him, do you want me to call your ex-wife so she can tell me how to bake those too? I am genuinely upset, and I walked away from the house for a while. I was talking to my friends, and even though they agree that what he did was rude and unnecessary, so was my comment. He didn't even apologize. He just said that I overreacted. I don't think I did, but now I'm not so sure. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, not the asshole. Stop cooking for him. Since he's an expert on how things should be cooked, he can cook them. Also, if he's often critical, seriously consider whether this is how you want to spend the next year, or 5 years, or 10 years, or 40 years of your life. Info. Does he bring up his ex-wife often? And have you told him that it bothers you? And OP says, yes. Every story that he tells, he has to make a comparison to something he did to her. I bought him a shirt and some underwear since he didn't have any, and he told me that that wasn't the brand his ex-wife would get for him. But at the same time, he complains about how horrible she was. It has genuinely made me question if she was horrible, or was he like this too? Okay, next question. Why are you with him if he's not over his ex? OP replies, they had a very toxic relationship, and he has told me millions of times that if it wasn't for the kids, they wouldn't have any sort of contact. At the same time, I also think he still has some feelings for her. They dated from the ages of 14 or 15. This woman has been in his life longer than he was by himself. I try to be understanding, that's why he acts like that sometimes. Honey, you are not being understanding, you are being a doormat. Dump him. Not the asshole. Your title makes you sound childish, but after reading, your husband is the asshole for a few reasons. He keeps bringing up his ex to you, he keeps trying to micromanage your cooking, not writing down or looking up recipes he likes, and not doing the cooking his damn self if it means so much. Am I the asshole for ruining Thanksgiving? So I met my boyfriend 3 years ago. Before me, he was together with his high school sweetheart. They fell out of love and broke up. A year later, we started dating. His mum, however, was still heartbroken about it. I was very understanding and thought she needed time to get to know me. The ex basically grew up with them, and they saw her as a part of the family. For the first year of my relationship, his mum would call me the ex's name, until boyfriend got angry once and told her to be nice. She laughed it off and said that it was just a habit. After that, she started calling me the wrong name. Janet instead of Jenny. Fictional names just for the story. I corrected her a couple of times, but she seemed to like hurting me, so I ignored it later. My boyfriend has 2 sisters, and a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, we were invited to barbecue at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my boyfriend's mum, the sisters, and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my boyfriend praised my cooking to her husband, and the mum was listening. She then said out loud, "Sure, why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other, and I said, "That's a great idea." I didn't tell my boyfriend what happened. On Thanksgiving, we went to his mum's house with the usual wine and dessert. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I said, "What? I thought Janet was bringing the turkey." There was yelling, crying, and then we got kicked out. My boyfriend is so angry with me, he hasn't talked to me since. I think it's over, to be honest, but I still don't think that I did anything wrong. Did I? And now in the comments, thunderous applause. You are my favorite asshole for this. My absolute hero. Not the asshole. I think it drove the point home. Your boyfriend should have been sticking up for you more, but this was a good final F you. Seriously, that coward. On a bright note, this is great closure. The mother will now forever remember OP. This guy is 30 years old, and not just letting his family talk to OP like this, but siding with them. Long wet fart sound. Hope he enjoys his loveless marriage to his childhood ex when mummy berates him back into it. Nah, that girl bounced a long time ago. She's too smart to get roped back into this crap show. Not the asshole. Your boyfriend's mum is clearly trying to sabotage your relationship. Your boyfriend needs to stand up for you and put a stop to it immediately. As for the turkey, again, that's ridiculous, and they knew exactly what they were doing causing that drama. Seems like OP's mum succeeded in destroying the relationship since OP thinks it's over. Good riddance to that relationship. Boyfriend never put a stop to the bullying to OP. He's just as bad as his mother and sisters. Not the asshole. This family sounds like an absolute nightmare fuel. If my future partner's mother tried to alienate me any chance she got, I would have had the same reaction. There is only so much hatefulness a person can take. I genuinely feel so sorry for you in having to go through that. It must hurt a lot. Your boyfriend should have had a sit-down talk with her ages ago about boundaries and being kind to you, which shouldn't even have to happen in a relationship. I'm glad you stuck up for yourself and made her feel like an idiot because she is one. Your boyfriend should have stuck up for you anyhow, considering it's out of your hands to be respected. OP replies, he tried to correct her a few times, but she gave a half-hearted apology. Now he just rolled his eyes. I have, or had, very little interaction with his mum for obvious reasons. Now he just rolled his eyes? So, mum is manipulative sometimes, and we try to tell her to do better, but she eventually wins. Yeah, he's gonna wonder why he can't ever keep a girlfriend around. I don't know about you, but I think the mother is a Sith Lord. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to apologize to my husband in writing after I cancelled all his family invitations to a Christmas celebration at our house? So, to give some context, I've been married to my husband for 4 years. I work a full-time job while he does a 3 times a week night shift. We have a 2-year-old and I am 6 months pregnant. This whole drama started days ago. My husband has a large family, and on every Christmas, they would gather at his father's house. My father-in-law passed away a year ago, and this year, my husband decided, as the man of the family, to host Christmas at our house. Unbeknownst to me, he sent out invitations for a 5-day Christmas celebration to his entire family, which are about 26 members in total. I found out by accident, and I was too shocked to react. I confronted him on it, and he said that I shouldn't be surprised and just get used to it, because after his father's death, he is now the family's head, and all major family events will be held in our house and in his presence. I freaked out and said, no, this is wrong. and he should have talked to me first before sending out any invitations to his family, knowing I have other commitments like work and taking care of the house and our son. He said we'll manage if I took time off work, but that means more workload later, and it'd take away from my maternity leave. I demanded he cancel the invitations, but he refused, saying over my dead body, and then walked out. I ended up sending a mass text to everyone who received an invitation, explaining that we will not be hosting Christmas this year. He found out and went off on me, calling my behavior outrageously appalling, and said that I broke his word to his family and made him look small and with no authority. I, in a very strict tone, replied that I didn't sign up to host a celebration and accommodate 26 people while pregnant, taking care of a toddler, and working. And I don't care if he became the head of the family after his father's death, because it means nothing to me. He took offense to that and walked out almost crying. He later talked about how I disrespected his father and him with what I said, and demanded a handwritten apology for cancelling the event and for being insensitive towards him and undermining his authority in front of his family. But I said no apology from me in any form, and the issue was still up, especially with my mother-in-law giving me a stern talk about how out of line I was for disrespecting my husband's decisions regarding the holiday celebration with family. Edit to add to put this out there, he planned on sitting and telling stories of his dad while I handle everything, and his family believed that as guests, it's rude to ask them to help. And now in the comments, not the asshole. Is he delusional? A written apology? What are you, his servant? Jesus Christ, that's repulsive. The fact to saying that she made him feel small and with no authority shines a light on how he sees their relationship dynamic. Yes, very true. In fact, I'd file for divorce if my husband talked to me like that. The authority thing would make me feel physically sick. See her edit as well? Husband really seems to see her as a submissive figure over whom he should have complete and utter authority. It's obvious from the fact that he's the new head of the family, instead of the mum, that the family goes real hard on misogyny. Dearest husband, I am sorry that you do not consider me as a partner, and that you have operated under the misguided notion that I am a baby maker and child raiser that you can also task to organize, cater, and run complex and large-scale family events without consultation or consideration. I apologize for allowing an environment to exist that led you to believe that making such a big decision without discussing it with me and your resulting behavior and callous disregard for your pregnant wife could exist. Rest assured that this will not continue. All the best and happy holidays, your wife, who is going to have a nap while you cook us all dinner. Not the asshole. Unless your husband was planning on doing all the cooking, hosting, entertaining, and taking care of the kids, not the asshole. I would seriously probably leave my husband if he spoke to me like this, or acted this way. You are the one doing everything. If anything, you are the man of the family now. You work, take care of the kids, run the house. You are the one who has the authority, not him. And he comes from a family who thinks the same stupid stuff. I also probably would have carried on life as usual and let him deal with the fallout of having to cook and entertain, as he gave you no notice and you have a job and a life. I would show up home every day like a guest. Seriously, this man and his family are raising your children with the same mentality. Consider whether you want your kids to be like them. If you want to continue to endure this wild behavior, you can walk away and leave him to it. Our next post is titled, Am I the Asshole for My Sister Ending Her Pregnancy and Possibly Her Marriage? So I, male 32, have two older brothers, 38 and 40, and a sister who is 34. Note the age differences. Our dad passed away 5 years ago in our hometown, which is a more suburban town in Wisconsin. Our family was relatively modest when my brothers grew up, so they were cared for a lot by my parents' families, who were very conservative. My dad, personally, was not. By the time me and my sister were born, our dad's career was doing great, and we were well off. Me and my sister have masters, while our brothers didn't go to college despite the funds and chances. My mom had been trying to set my sister up with a churchgoer's kid. This didn't progress until around the time my dad died, and my sister came back and helped with the funeral. My brother's families are both in town as well. I worked in tech in China then, and live in San Francisco now, and since the funeral have been mostly low contact with everyone except my sister. Honestly, I was very close with my dad, and there was obvious favoritism towards me, which the others didn't like. So my mum and oldest brother now technically live in my house. My sister somehow ended up leaving her career and moving back. She married the man my mum set her up with in 2019. I was honestly in shock at the wedding. I really didn't ever see my sister living on a farm and becoming a stay-at-home mum. I knew for a fact my mum and brothers had a huge part in this, because there were a lot of "she's back home" posts. Later, I found out that she had pretty much given all her savings to her husband. Late 2020, my sister, straight out of the blue, started calling me and just chatting about things. I, of course, love this. Early in 2021, my mum told me she was pregnant. I immediately asked my sister about this, and she kinda broke down. In short, the husband has been abusive. She's broke, and my family and her in-laws haven't helped. My oldest brother wailed at her about how his wife went through the same thing, and my sister should stop thinking that she's special. The first time she called me, he had kicked her out of their home for complaining about their finances. This was fairly common. This is where I am the asshole. I basically yelled at her too. I told her that she had a career which she can still go back to, and I can help her move back to New York City, where she worked and studied before, and that the pregnancy wasn't the end of it, and there were other options. The next day, she asked me for $5,000, which I sent to her without asking. I didn't hear much after, and didn't intrude because it was a total mess. A month later, my sister told me she had gotten a new job in New York City and filed for divorce. The pregnancy is also no longer on the table. Now my family has been blowing up my social media, calling me all sorts of crap. I have in general called them crap back as well, and the home might be on the market soon. My sister needed to switch apartments and got a restraining order against her ex, and well, things aren't great. But I'm happy my sister is better. So, am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I gave my own opinion without being asked. I shouldn't have gotten into it. Also, my family's reputation might be at stake in the town. Now in the comments, not the asshole. 2 words, abusive husband. You did her a favor. Not the asshole. Your sister needed you, and you were there for her. Keep your head up and carry on. You have done right by her. Exactly. He was there and did right by her when no one else did. OP, I was so ready to call you the asshole. I was so ready. But you are not. At all. You have done a really good thing. You helped her get her life back. And you helped her in a way that also gave her her self-esteem and dignity back because you didn't tell her how to do it and let her do it herself. You did a really good thing, OP. You are not the asshole for helping your sister get out of an abusive relationship. You probably saved her life, especially since he is now stalking her in New York City. OP says, she has gotten help from friends at this point who all seemed very happy to have her back. We are not super worried about it, and the restraining order will help. I really hope she doesn't buckle under pressure. OP, you were the person that I needed when I was in a very similar situation. Thank you for doing what no one else would, and giving her the support and means to extricate herself. Continue being there for her. Check in on her. Make space for her to be honest with you about what's happening. She's going through hell, but it would have become a hell she died in if she'd stayed. I hope that she's able to cut your family out of her life and not look back. And OP says, yeah, I was so freaked out about her harming herself. I'm truly sorry that you were in a similar situation. Yes, I'm keeping up regularly with her. Not the asshole. I would probably kick your mum and oldest brother out of your house for how they treated your sister. OP replies, yeah, it's such a cognitive dissonance that I'm experiencing from them. On one side, we want to disown you for doing this. On the other, you are our family, so you can't kick us out. Yeah, they sound like miserable people. I'm sorry. As an older sister who always helps her baby sister out, I know your sister is thanking you for returning those small favors in a big way. Our next post is titled, Am I the Asshole for telling my girlfriend to cover up her body when strangers enter the home? I am fully aware the title sounds sexist, but hear me out please. My girlfriend comes from a wealthy background and grew up with maids, chefs, chauffeurs, etc. I was raised in a completely opposite environment and am still adjusting to dating someone like her. When we are not with her parents, we spend a lot of time at one of her apartments. Here's the issue. My girlfriend likes to walk around home barely wearing anything, which is fine. Awesome even. But she does this even when the help are around. For example, last month when her family hired a new driver for her, she stopped by the apartment to introduce herself. She was only wearing underwear. Keep in mind, this is the first time they've met in person. I felt awkward, he was visibly awkward, and she didn't give a crap at all. She was casually chatting to him while scrolling away on her phone. She does this all the time. She doesn't think she needs to wear any decent amount of clothes at all when people that work for her are around. She will casually walk around wearing just a thong or a tiny crop top. Just a crop top, nothing else. She even does this with complete strangers. One time she opened a door for the delivery guy wearing only a see-through gown. You could see everything. Afterwards, I talked to her about it, and she was utterly confused to why I felt uncomfortable. Then she laughed and told me to stop being a jealous baby. She even said that I am unreasonable. We had another discussion about this yesterday, and I told her that she probably wouldn't feel comfortable if I did the same. She said she doesn't understand why I care what her staff think, and that it never even crossed her mind that this is inappropriate. She told me that she only does this in the comfort of her own home, and not in front of actual people, i.e. people that don't work for her. She got kinda mad at me and vented to her friends. According to all of them, I'm weird for having a problem with this, and an asshole for telling my girlfriend to cover up. Somehow I'm the villain of this story. Am I really the asshole? Now in the comments, why are you with someone who thinks the help aren't real people? She sounds incredibly self-centered and inconsiderate to treat people who work for her like their feelings don't matter at all, adding the not the asshole judgment here. OP says, I asked her to explain what she meant by that, and she just laughed it off and said that I know what she means. I did not. I think you do though. She sees those people as below her and not real people with real feelings that matter. It says a lot about her character. And also, if she feels lonely one day, they are there and she's already half undressed. At this rate, the nihilists are going to kidnap her to try to get more money from the Big Lebowski. Not the asshole. She sounds classist AF. If she believes being naked or semi-nude in front of people is wrong, and it sounds like she does, then she doesn't believe these people are actual people. Pretty sure it's not acceptable to be naked or semi around strangers without their consent. A man doing this around female employees would be a criminal. Not the asshole. Her behavior and justification are not normal at all. Info. Since when are staff not actual people? OP replies, I don't know. I thought that statement was alarming. If she doesn't consider them real people, then I have no idea what she thinks of me, since I'm no richer than her staff. That is definitely a red flag of her as a person. I would even consider it a bigger deal than the nudity thing. I would think long and hard if you're okay dating someone who views some people as lesser. Am I the asshole for getting upset at my husband for eating part of our dinner for his lunch? As a bit of background, my husband lost his mum in January. Since then, he has been growing more and more depressed, easily irritable, paranoid, delusional, and more childlike in his behavior. After months of my pleading with him, he finally saw a counselor in July, where he was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and then 2 days later, he quit his job without talking to me about it. We have been together for over 10 years, and these past 9 months have been the worst of our relationship. He is no longer the patient, sweet, kind, and loving man that I married. We went out of town on Saturday, and on our way back, stopped at a barbecue restaurant to pick up dinner for one night this week. Even though my husband is no longer working, I'm still doing about 90% of the cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the kids. It used to be more like 55%. So grabbing dinner for one night this week eases the burden off of me to make dinner and clean up as we have sports every Monday to Thursday evening. The money that I used for this barbecue dinner was from my fun money budget that I could have easily spent on something more selfish rather than a dinner for the family. On Sunday afternoon, I noticed that the barbecue container was sitting out on the counter and felt room temperature, like it had been sitting there for a while. When I opened it up, I noticed that about 25% of the barbecue was gone from the container. I confronted my husband about why he would eat part of the dinner that was planned for another night and then leave the container out on the counter. My husband blew up and called me selfish and childish. This resulted in him screaming that he wants a divorce, stomping around like a child, and slamming almost every door in the house. Since then, he hasn't said a word to myself or the kids other than for me to leave him alone. I don't feel like I was wrong to be upset about him eating food that was supposed to be saved for later, and there was plenty of other food to eat in the house. However, given his reaction, I would really like some strangers' opinions on if I'm an unreasonable asshole. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. The action that I took that should be judged was getting upset at my husband for eating part of our dinner for his lunch. In regards to question 2, as to why the action might make me an asshole, I could have been more generous regarding sharing the barbecue or more understanding, and I could have just not said anything given that he's going through a tough time right now. Now in the comments, not the asshole. Maybe all things considered, tell him you agree a divorce is in the best interest of all. He's contributing nothing but stress and trouble to the family. Don't bury me in hatred for this, but a 30-year-old man who can't function or work 9 months after his mum's death is a very troubled person, and you've got a life to live and kids to raise. We all lose our mums. Hopefully we are adults with our own families by the time that sad day comes, like OP's husband. He's definitely regressed and is trying to turn his wife into his mum. Good catch and good point. Doesn't sound like a receptive therapy candidate, but you never know. Not the asshole, and his reaction based on your post is unusual. This sounds like something to do with his depressive disorder, and I would be encouraging him to keep seeing his therapist, speak to his primary care regarding medicine, etc. It's understandable that he's going through a tough time. That doesn't give him a free pass on behavior. OP says he needs to get on some sort of medication. His therapist suggested it, but he doesn't want to take it. He just has excuse after excuse, and he isn't taking ownership of any of his actions, which is making this whole situation much more difficult. Not the asshole. Here's the deal. You can't care more about his MH than he does. Having MI does not mean he gets to treat you like crap. You have to decide if you want to stay with a man who refuses to commit to treatment. This is the key info, OP. Unfortunately, you can't make someone want to get better, want to improve. He is denying his own autonomy, but also doesn't want help. I'm sorry to say he's likely going to continue to spiral for a bit. The question is how much you are going to tolerate. I'd take him up on his divorce offer and take some space for a bit, maybe a month or 2 of you living solo without you to take care of all his domestic duties. That will help him wake up. Best of luck to you. And OP says, thanks. This whole post is a bit of an eye-opener. I haven't really talked to anyone about this, other than a few people who only know that we're going through a rough patch, so it's good to get some perspective on his behavior. Not the asshole. Since he wants a divorce and wants to be left alone, you should be talking to a divorce attorney. He's gone from just being sad to lashing out at you and your children. It's not really about food. And now onto the update. I wanted to provide an update in regards to my post from almost 2 weeks ago, and to sincerely thank every person who commented or messaged me. Prior to posting in the Am I the Arsehole community, I truly thought that I was being selfish and unreasonable. My husband's mind games had worked, and I was doubting my own moral compass. However, after reading through the comments, I realized that my husband was being a huge asshole. A few days later, I talked with my husband and explained to him how I felt like he was minimizing my feelings, how I felt betrayed that he quit his job without discussing it with me, how I can't have a meaningful conversation with him anymore because he either deflects, lies, or gets angry, and how I don't deserve to be treated that way. I wish that I had a happy ending to tell you, that the come to Jesus moment worked and he vowed to change. However, he decided to move out. I believe that his intention was to hurt me by moving out, but all I felt was relief. Relief from feeling like I've been walking around on eggshells for months, and that I didn't have to deal with his incredibly erratic behavior. I also felt brave enough to talk to my friends about what had been occurring behind closed doors. Talking with my friends helped tremendously, and from those conversations, I found out that my husband's new BFF that he's been hanging out with regularly since his mum died is an addict, meth and heroin addict. And then it all made perfect sense. The mood swings, the paranoia, the irritability, the delusions. I 99.9% believe that my husband is on some sort of drugs. I again talked with my husband, and he denied everything. He called me narcissistic and said that I have a big ego, that I need to get out of my ivory tower. I'm self-righteous, and that I'm abusive towards him, of which he had zero examples of when I pushed back on that statement, and I told him that I needed for him to commit to getting sober for the marriage to work. He dodged the question multiple times and finally said, "That is an ultimatum. I don't react well to those." Unfortunately, I now have to walk away before his behavior escalates any further. I have to protect myself and my children. I can't win against addiction. I have an attorney on retainer. I just need to figure out the best way forward with an angry addict husband who will probably be surprised that I'm no longer playing nice. Again, thank you to everyone who commented, upvoted comments, and messaged me. I'm so grateful that my eyes were opened enough to stop making excuses for him and blaming myself. And now in the comments, best of luck through all of this. It'll get incredibly difficult at times, but stay strong and stand your ground, for you and your children's sake. It's good that you already have an attorney. If your husband's behavior is erratic and unpredictable, you may want to have a plan to keep yourself and your children safe. Pack at least one change of clothes and a couple days worth of any necessary medications for yourself and your children. Keep this bag in your car. If he's under the influence of something and you feel unsafe, you'll be able to leave quickly. And edit to add, keep your car keys in your pocket at all times. If you leave them on a counter or in your purse or on a hook somewhere and he gets angry, he may get to the keys before you can, and you'll be unable to leave. Consider also hiding some cash in your car, and or keeping at least one credit card or debit card in your pocket as well, and maybe your driver's license. Addicts are unpredictable, and it's unclear exactly what drugs he might be using. Be ready to get yourself and your kids out. Good luck. This sounds like a mashup of some of my own and some of my friends' experiences. I will say that being transparent with your friends will make you feel much, much saner, and you should keep doing it. The weakness of people as destructive and manipulative as your husband is that they can't be transparent. They keep things vague and rely on other people's good nature to assume the best of them. Laying your circumstances out to others will also be clarifying it to yourself, and it'll really firm up your sense of reality. He is relying on your continued silence to protect his image, and he doesn't deserve the sacrifice from you. And in a sick kind of way, it's almost good that your husband's deterioration is at least partially due to substance abuse. Most people you talk to will have someone in their lives whose personality has changed in mind-boggling, incredibly sad ways due to substance abuse. So there is more empathy and support out there for you than you might think if you go to seek it out. And I feel for your husband and hope he pulls himself out of his self-destructive spiral. But your first obligation is to yourself and your kids, and you do not need to keep self-immolating for him. And OP replies to that, "Thank you. I really hope that he gets help before he does any further damage to himself, but I can't help him if he refuses to help himself. In some ways, I feel like he's more likely to get help if he doesn't have someone constantly cleaning up after his messes and caring for him. I would like to believe that I'm saving him by walking away, and if not, at least I've saved my children from thinking that this type of behavior is love." Our next post is titled, "Would I be the asshole if I told my daughters the truth about their mum?" So I, 29 male, have 4 kids, all girls, aged 13, 12, 7, and 4, and 1 on the way. I want a boy because I want a junior, but I wouldn't mind another girl. I'm a girl dad. My oldest two are with my ex-girlfriend, and me and her were together in high school when we found out we were expecting. Our first daughter was born when we were 16 and our second was at 17. We broke up amicably when we were 19 and had been great co-parents. My ex has a drug problem. It was bad to say the least. She was able to hide it from our daughters, but it was getting worse as time went on. She wanted to get clean, so left our daughters with me and went to rehab to get right. This was 2 years ago. Now, my daughters haven't seen her in person, but they speak and FaceTime, and every time they ask why they haven't seen her, she says she has to go, and I know my ex is hurting. Sometimes she calls me crying and asks if she's a bad mum, and I tell her that she's a great mum because she wants to get better for our daughter's sake and her sake. My daughters aren't idiots either, so they know something is going on, and I won't budge on what it is. Now here is my dilemma. I want to tell them where their mum is and why she's there, but I don't want to do that without her signing off on it and her being present because I feel like as their parents, we should tell them together. I don't know what I should do. Would I be the arsehole if I just straight up told them without their mother signing off or being present? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. I believe if I do tell them, their mum wouldn't be there to tell them with me that I would be the arsehole because she didn't sign off on it, and she wouldn't be able to tell them straight up why she left. I feel it would somehow be disrespectful towards her as their mother. Now in the comments, your daughters are old enough to know. Discuss with your ex the proper way to tell them. Her honesty and accountability is part of her oath to long-term sobriety. Your girls are old enough that they may have figured out more than you think. I assure you they discuss it with each other and likely other people. Maybe speak to a child psychologist before you speak to the kids to help you plan the conversation and to anticipate the questions. This is a conversation that you need to be prepared for and to guide, or it will go south quickly. A drug and alcohol counselor may be better, as they will have more specific experience working with the children of addicts. Even better if they can set up an appointment together with her counselor to help them both understand how to approach her in this specific situation. You would be the arsehole if you told them without talking to their mum first. While they might be old enough to handle it, it's really something you should have her on board with first, otherwise it could end up going badly if they mention it while FaceTiming with her. You've already said that she's trying, and that you guys are co-parenting well. Don't ruin that. No one has actually said this, so I'm going to. You must talk to your ex, but if she says that she really doesn't want you to, you do not have to obey her. It's a judgment call that you have the authority to make, so if it comes to it, you can say, I'm telling them anyway, and leave it at that. You seem like a nice guy, and I can see that you don't want to hurt or stress out your ex, but you're a dad first. You must do what you think is in the best interests of your children. And now on to the update. So after I made the post on Wednesday, on Friday, I got a call from my ex and we had a conversation. I told her the girls had been again asking questions about where she has been for the last 2 years, and that they deserve answers. I told her that I wasn't going to do it without her there no matter what. She said okay, and thanked me between the tears, and she said she appreciated me, and I told her I appreciated her for giving me 2 of the 4 pieces, soon to be 5 pieces, that make my world, and that whatever happens, I got your back. She says she's gonna fly in, and we could finally have a talk. Now Sunday comes, and it's around 1 p.m. She knocks on the door, and my 12-year-old answered the door, and as soon as she saw her mum, she jumped into her arms, yelling and crying, as my 13-year-old turned around and jumped into her arms also, and they all just rolled around, crying, kissing, and hugging, and I'm not gonna lie, it caused me to cry a little bit. After 10 minutes, my ex thanked me and my wife for looking after the kids, and then me, my ex, and our daughters went into the backyard to talk. Our 13-year-old started it with why she left, and she replied and said that they were old enough to know the truth, and basically said it was because she was a drug addict. She spilled it all out. How she abused drugs and why she decided to stop when she realized it was going to end in either her death or losing everything, and she wasn't going to let that happen. She continued by saying that she loved the girls and that she wanted to get better for them, and she was sorry for leaving them like that, and that she loved them more than anything. My daughters then asked me why I didn't tell them the truth, and I told them I felt that it was the best decision to protect them, and I was sorry I lied to them. And I continued that I finally realized when they needed to know the truth was when they started continuously asking questions that I didn't want to answer without their mum, and that seeing their mum cry over them finally got me to tell them the truth. They understood, and they all cried. It was great to see. The rest of the day my ex and our girls were talking and playing, and the girls were telling her about school and their friends and their activities, and it made me happy. They played the rest of the day, and all three watched a movie in the girls' room and fell asleep. It's Monday morning as I'm writing this, and 1 hour ago, me and my ex dropped them off at school, and we went back again where she thanked me and my wife for looking after our daughters, and that she could never repay me, and we had a group hug. Thanks everybody for the advice both in the comments and the messaging. I really appreciate your help and advice. Now in the comments, you're a good dad, and sounds like you have your crap together, but damn, let's hear it for your wife. Dealing with an ex like this? Standing ovation for her, man. She's a keeper for sure. OP says, yeah, my wife is a frickin' trooper. Her and my ex have always gotten along, and she was more than happy to fill that role and treat them like they are her own, and that makes me happy. Those girls have 3 people who love them so fiercely, even through serious adversity. What a gift for those children. This is exactly how it's supposed to be with separate families working together for the best of the kids involved, not playing chess with the kids as pawns against the other parent. Such a heartwarming update. You are an awesome parent, and your daughters will really appreciate you both protecting them and being straight with them when they are older and fully understand. And OP replies, I really hope they can understand further when they get older, and thank you for calling me an awesome parent. I really appreciate it. Good job, dude. Being open about this kind of stuff towards our children is so important. We need to be open towards them in the hopes that they learn from our mistakes. It also gives a deeper connection between parent and child when a child sees their parent being vulnerable. You and your ex have really done a great job here. Your current wife too. It sounds like she is supporting, understanding, and loving about the whole situation. Well done to her as well. And OP replies, thank you for your words, man. I really appreciate it. My wife has been a trooper throughout this entire ordeal, and she has never once complained. My ex has become a better person because deep down, she is a great person who made a mistake. I'm proud that she is the mother of my daughters, and I'm proud to call my wife, that amazing woman, my wife. Am I the asshole for not accepting my sister's relationship with my ex despite her having cancer as a teenager? So my father married my stepsister's mother when I was 4 and she was 3. We have lived together most of our lives and are a family. She and I were extremely close. She developed cancer when she was 14 and was sick for about 2 years. She has since made a full recovery. During that time, my parents became understandably overprotective. They also asked a lot of me. I quit my extracurriculars so I could get a job, and the money went towards her medical bills, and so I could drive her to appointments. I didn't go to dances, and any fun activities I did needed to include her. I did almost all of this willingly, the exception being having to quit my high school volleyball team. I did throw a bit of a tantrum about that, but was swiftly punished. And I think having one emotional breakdown was pretty chill given the circumstances. Anyhow, I go to college and meet my ex. We'll call him Ben, when I'm a junior. We fall in love, blah blah blah. He and I move in together when we graduate, so we've been living together for about 3 years. We were serious until July, when I walked into my bedroom and saw him banging my sister. I broke it off, tears were shed, he moved out, etc. My sister apologized at first, but then backed off. I thought she was giving me space, but last week, she called me and asked if we could meet up. She told me that she and Ben were in love, and were just telling me as a courtesy before they started posting photos online. Distraught, I left her in the restaurant by herself and did not pay my portion of the bill. She later Venmo'd me, asking for the money. She told my parents, who then called me to their house, telling me how disappointed in me they are for not supporting my sister's relationship with Ben. They brought up the fact that because she had cancer as a teenager, she never learned proper social etiquette, and has a hard time meeting new people. I don't buy this, in part because I've seen her socialize just fine, and since we spent a good chunk of the time she was sick together, that would also mean that I should have bad social skills as well, by that logic. They then told me that if I don't accept my sister and Ben's relationship, they may have to go no contact with me. I reminded them that I'm also their daughter, and they should understand my point of view. but they are adamant that this is about me being jealous of her. For the record, I'm not jealous of her. I'm not upset that Ben picked her over me. I'm sad about the end of the relationship and do feel betrayed, but Lord knows that I don't want to be with a cheater. What I'm upset about is the fact that my sister chose Ben over me, that she slept with Ben knowing he and I were in a long-term committed relationship and continues to be with him knowing how much it hurts me. Now, no one in my immediate family is talking to me, and I'm getting messages from aunts and uncles and cousins telling me that I'm an asshole and a selfish cow. Now in the comments, not the asshole. Your parents are enablers. Cancer as a teen did not shrink wrap her and isolate her from the entirety of human morals and values forever and ever. Amen. From what you describe, it sounds disturbingly like you have been deemed the cannon fodder of the family. Take some time for yourself and put them on the back burner. Is it just cancer, or any potentially life-threatening disease that gives an exemption? I really need to know because I might have behaved unnecessarily for many years. Sarcasm, not the asshole. The audacity of her parents to think that OP should get over it and accept the new relationship. She walked in on her partner and sister. I'm sure stepmom wouldn't take it lightly if she walked in on dad doing his sister-in-law. Cancer schmancer. Not only that, but excusing it because she never learned social etiquette? I'm pretty sure even a child who was raised by wolves could figure out that screwing your sister's boyfriend is a no-no. Not the asshole. I had cancer as a teenager. I've managed not to have sex with either of my siblings' partners, weirdly enough. And OP says, maybe you were on a different treatment plan. Oh god, you're right. It'll be the socialized healthcare stopping me from living in this timeline. Also, I'm really sorry that your entire family are terrible. You were handling this with the grace that few could manage. And OP says, oh, don't you worry. I'm totally falling apart right now. I just have a dark sense of humor and no choice but to keep going with my life. Not the asshole. Oh, hell no. Your sister is using an illness that she had a decade ago as an excuse to sleep with your boyfriend and have that be okay. It's not. The fact your parents are going along with this smacks of having a golden child. I'm sorry to say that sometimes the trash takes itself out. Your sister is awful, your parents are and were awful. It was not your job to quit every activity to pay your sister's medical bills and drive her around. It's good that you know this now and can get some therapy and move on with your life. You deserve better people in your corner and they are out there waiting for you. And now back up to the post, there is an edit. Thank you everyone so much for your comments. This has gotten more attention than I expected and I'm having trouble keeping up, so if I don't say thank you, then thank you. I've been given a lot of food for thought. To be honest, while I've had moments where I've been resentful or upset about my teenage years, I've always thought that I did the right thing for my sister and for my family, and that time wasn't all miserable. I was very close to my sister, and we made things as fun as we could. But I didn't think of it as an abdication of my parents' responsibilities, or that they were doing wrong by me, which many of you pointed out. I definitely have a lot to think about. Thank you again for making me feel less crazy about all of this. And there's an update. Sometimes you can only laugh. Just got off the phone with my cousin who saw this post and said that he could explain a few things. I asked him why he was on Reddit instead of school, and he asked me why I was on Reddit instead of work, and I said touché. He told me that after my conversation with my mum, she went to his house and talked to my aunt, and here's the deal. Turns out my sister is not only in a relationship with Ben, but 4 months pregnant, which means she and Ben were banging for longer than I had even guessed. Apparently my parents are so adamant that I forgive her because I'm already ruining their experience of the first grandchild. That's right, I'm less important than my stepmom posting ultrasounds to Facebook. This is where we are at. Anyhow, I called out of work sick for the rest of the day and am going to drink a lot of alcohol. Like, a lot of alcohol, and then start thinking about what the F I'm going to do. And now it's time for the update. So I was asked for an update and thus here I am. 2 things to clarify before I update. 1, I didn't have a shitty childhood. The favoritism started when my sister was diagnosed. I moved out soon after and have been pretty independent since then. Not saying that how my parents treated me during those years was a-okay, but I wasn't Cinderella. And 2, I did not drink myself into oblivion. I had 2 white wine spritzes, but I appreciate the concerns from folks. Anyhow, the update. I got in touch with my sister and asked her to meet up again at a park. No bill involved. I asked her if she was pregnant, and she told me the truth. She said she wanted us to still be in each other's lives, and that she wanted me to be in her babies. A Redditor, and I forgot who, I'm sorry, mentioned that she may ask me to be the godmother, and that person was correct. But as many of you pointed out, if I didn't cut her off, I'd just become her bank and daycare employee. So I told her I could no longer be in her life. And I left her crying on a park bench and felt like the shittiest person in the world. I emailed my parents and told them how betrayed I felt and that I'd be cutting off contact with them. To my stepmom's credit, she apologized. She explained that she never thought my sister would live to have kids, and that she let her emotion over that get the better of her. Understandable. My dad said nothing, which is honestly what sucked the worst about all of this. Ben tried messaging me from a burner account for the first time since the breakup, but I blocked him without reading it. I didn't go nuclear and post the story to Facebook as some suggested, but I sent an email to the extended family members who I care about. I explained the situation and how I would be distancing myself from my family. Some have made it an us versus them situation, and as much as I appreciate the support, feeling like I'm in some valiant battle just makes me more tired, so I haven't been talking to much of anyone in my family. I feel lonely and crappy, but I think I made the right decision. Anyhow, not the most exciting update in the world, but hopefully everyone knows that I'm not dead. I do really appreciate the support I've gotten. It made me smile during a really shitty time. Now in the comments, I'm sorry things turned out this way and that you aren't a priority to your parents. But seriously, does she not realize that A, you and Ben were still sleeping together during those months, and he could have just been stringing her along? B, has she never been in a relationship? How would she feel if you had done that to her? And C, she can always wonder now if Ben is cheating on her with someone else, but it would be karma. Ultimately, I hope your parents realize that you are just as important as she is, and their behavior is pretty shitty. Good luck. And OP replies to that, A, according to her, neither wanted to hurt me by telling me, which, lol. B, she has had a few boyfriends, but they've only lasted a month or two. C, for her sake, I hope he doesn't. And D, my stepmom told me that they will welcome me back with open arms when I choose to come back. I'm just not sure that I'll come back. They won't be giving up on my sister. That's the fun part of giving up on them. You don't have to care anymore. You don't have to feel hurt or play games. You get to just be. That's what you will start to feel when this all normalizes. Just give it time. Find a new hobby or dust an old one off. Make something of your complete own that none of them were invited or included in. That will be your place of solitude, the rock that you set up shop on. Well done. I could have written this 10 years ago. Personal bank, check. Babysitter, check. No boundaries, check. Parents butthurt, check. And ugly crying, check. Enabling my sister's shitty behavior was a disservice to her and to me. Like yours, mine also had medical issues. My family believed this excused her actions. Facing health challenges sucks, and it does not give you a no-holds-barred, free lifetime pass to use other people. I have no relationship with her children either, nor she with mine. When my family finally realized that I would not be guilted, manipulated, coerced, begged, or threatened into having a relationship with her, they finally shut up. They understand now that I'll show them the door as well. Every single time my mother started in with the guilting and attempting to emotionally manipulate me, I smiled and restated my position. No, I don't want to, I don't care. Oh well, too bad, goodbye. Block her on social media, filter her emails to your trash, block her number, and enjoy your life. Sometimes family is just an accident of nature. I like the idea that your family is like a pre-generated party in a game, and hitting adulthood means you can start swapping them out for other family members, friends and significant others that will be better for your long-term growth and happiness. And you say that you left her crying on a park bench and felt like the shittiest person in the world. You aren't. You made the right decision. Sometimes people aren't good to be in your life, and you have to do things even if they are hard. Keep trying to live your best life. Yeah, the sister really did this to herself. It's mind-boggling to think that you can do something so cruel to someone and expect them to just brush it off with no consequence. I'm glad OP is creating some distance here. There is no way the family wouldn't continue taking advantage of her. Our next post is titled, "Would I be the arsehole if I let my nephew call me dad because he's ashamed of his parents?" 5 years ago, when I was 21, my brother and his wife were sentenced to more than 20 years of prison. This left their then 2-year-old son, Danny, in my care. Due to the circumstances, I was given his full custody, and I have also legally adopted him since. As far as I'm concerned, he's my kid. However, I got him when he had begun talking, and he called me Uncle OP, and I never addressed myself in any other way to him. 3 days ago, he came back from school in tears. We just started sending kids back to school here, and he wouldn't tell me what's wrong. I thought he was bullied or something like that, so I called his teacher to ask what's up. She was cagey at first, but then they apologetically told me that the class was supposed to write about their parents. Some asshole kids teased him because he refused to tell them why he wrote about me instead of his mum and dad. I talked to Danny and managed to get the rest of the story from him. During it all, he said something along the lines of, "Why can't I just call you Dad?" Now, that might just be him venting, and I'm taking this way too far, and I would be lying if I said I didn't like the sound of it. But also, I've been trying really hard to at least keep him aware of his parents' existence. I always write Christmas cards and take photos of him on his birthday to send to his parents, and I keep him involved in it, even if to only write his name at the bottom of the letter. Neither of us are enthusiastic about it, but I want to be able to say that we tried, if that makes sense. If he had asked to call me Dad because that's genuinely how he sees me, I would have said yes in a heartbeat. But he didn't. It was less a genuine want, and more out of shame of his parents, which I get, really. It's hard to be sympathetic knowing what they did, but he didn't. And if I had any say, he won't for a long time. I know I wouldn't be the arsehole if I let him call me whatever he wants out of love, but would I still be justified if I let him call me Dad out of spite for his parents? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. Regardless of my opinion on their crime, objectively, it wasn't committed to their son. It prohibits them from doing their parental duty to him. But I think there's a difference between resenting your parents for being absent and being ashamed of them for being imprisoned. Now in the comments, not the arsehole. I don't really think that it's spite though. He is still very young. Might be worthwhile having that, "Buddy, if you're gonna call me Dad, that's your choice, and I would definitely be okay with whatever you decide. Talk, if you were down for it." Co-signing this, he might have felt this way, and this was just what finally brought it out. Talk to him. Not the arsehole, but I have a feeling he doesn't want to call you Dad out of spite. He probably feels like his parents are not really in his life, and your insistence to make him call you Uncle probably makes him feel really lonely, like he doesn't have any parents. You are his dad. OP replies, "Oh, haven't really thought about it that way. Thank you for bringing this up." That's right. You adopted him. You are dad now anyway. There's a saying I think fits this situation. Any guy can be a father. It takes a special guy to be a dad. For all intents and purposes, you are this boy's father. Even if his biological parents get out of jail tomorrow, you are still his father. You adopted him after being given full legal custody. Realistically speaking, you are more his dad or parent than his ever were. Part of it might be out of spite, but more likely, it's because that's how he actually views you. Sometimes it takes something terrible like mean little arsehole kids to realize that. Not the arsehole either way, especially considering how young he is. If you consider him your son, then you are his dad. And OP says thank you. I think I might have to talk to him later about how he is seeing his parents. And now on to the update. First of all, I would like to thank you all for your replies, suggestions, and even personal stories. I really appreciate all of them. As per majority, or maybe even all, of the comments, I took Danny for an ice cream after school and really talked to him. Many of you speculated that he was mostly frustrated by the lack of concrete parental figures in his life, and it boiled over in a very stressful situation. And you were right. Poor kid was so terrified when I asked him, and I felt like crap. How did I not see this for so long? We talked it out until both our ice creams were melted, and I'm so proud that he's willing to talk it out with me, even if it makes me a little sad to hear such grown-up words coming from such a young kid. I think the exact resolution of whether he's calling me dad is a topic to be discussed over the course of many months, maybe even years. The most important thing is that I told him that I love him like he's my own son, and that when I talk about him to my coworkers, I call him my kid and my Danny, because that's what he is, and also because there's at least 2 other people in my office with Danny of their own. But mine is the best out of all of them. I told him that even if he's not comfortable calling me dad at home, he's free to do whatever it takes to protect himself. If he has to call me his dad at school so kids won't tease him, I'm glad I can help him. There is nothing to be ashamed of from not having a mum and a dad at home. But if telling people you do will get them to leave him alone, then by all means do it. I also sent an email about the last part to his teacher. She's new. This is her first class ever. I understand making mistakes, and she seems eager to steer her class in the right direction, and I'm all for turning this into a good learning experience for everyone. I mean, I screwed up too. Even if my intention was good, I still failed to see his needs through over my idea of doing what's right. To that end, I'm currently in contact with a child counselor, mostly to ask a trained third party for advice in dealing with my brother and sister-in-law, preferably before Christmas. I'd also like to keep that option open just in case, since some people wrote about potential traumatic outburst, which I think is a reasonable thing to prepare for. I guess that's everything from me. Once again, thank you all for your help and care. Now in the comments, both these posts were really wholesome to read, OP. From a child of divorce and a father of 2, the thing you are doing incredibly well here is being genuinely caring and considerate. If he doesn't already, he'll see you as his dad soon enough. Duh, of course your Danny is best. Congratulations for good talk. Keep up good parenting. And he will continue being the best because he has such a wonderful parental figure. This update made me so happy. Not because it's a good resolution for this poor kid to have to go through, but because it's clear he has a thoughtful, caring, and wonderful parent. I would also talk to the school about not assuming every kid has parents. It's very common for kids to have parents who are separated, deceased, to be raised by a single parent, their grandparents, other siblings, aunts and uncles, parents of the same sex. Like, in this day and age, a teacher asking students to write about their parents, instead of write about the person who raised you / someone you admire, shouldn't still have to be said. And there should absolutely be a zero-tolerance policy on teasing a kid because they don't have the nuclear family dynamic. OP's situation really isn't unique in many ways. We are long past the days where the nuclear family unit is the norm, so that school really needs to revise its policy on how to refer to families, because there was no reason for Danny to have been put in that situation in the first place. This is something I really wish teachers would take into account more, especially since a lot of elementary schools do family tree projects, and it just seems like that will marginalize kids who already feel like they don't belong. Foster kids spring immediately to mind, but plenty of other kids live in non-nuclear family structures that may be hard to wrangle into a linear kind of family tree. Also, in the US, they often do family trees to talk about immigration, which is all well and good until you have native kids in your class that you didn't know were native. Happens all the frickin' time. Non-native people think you can tell by looking, which, lol? And they're like, but we're not immigrants. And yeah, a lot of native people have some mixed ancestry, but I know quite a few people who have only native people on their family tree, and they simply do not fit into the way their teachers have framed the discussion, thanks to the teachers' ignorance. Am I the asshole for telling my sister to expect to go to school tomorrow with no friends? So I, 17 female, have a little sister, 14, who is extremely spoiled. She doesn't like to share, she hates not getting her way, and most of all, she throws tantrums when she's told no. My parents refuse to address her behavior, so she continues to behave this way. Today was my first time in years my sister had friends over to hang out. My mum had groceries sent full of snacks that they were to share. My sister grabbed most of the snacks, and one of the girls wanted a bag of gummy bears. My sister said no, but she had 3 bags, so I took one from her and gave it to my friend. She dropped all of what was in her hand and started stomping her feet, whining about wanting all of them. My dad made me give it back to her, so I gave her friend some fruit snacks instead. Then, they were looking for a movie to watch and the two girls agreed on one, but my sister wanted to watch a different movie. When I told her it was only fair the girls got to pick because they were her guest and she was outnumbered, she got upset and went to tell again. At this point, both girls said they wanted to go home, so my dad took them home. I told my sister as long as she continues to act this way, she will never have friends. I told her to expect to go to school tomorrow and have no friends, and she started crying, and my dad said that I was out of line. Am I the asshole for what I said? Editing to include 1. I was not peeking, waiting for something to go wrong and say something, and 2. I was in the kitchen putting groceries away, which is literally 10 feet away from the living room, and heard her being mean to them. I was not controlling the remote for them either. And now in the comments, not the asshole. Your parents are turning her into a monster. They might force you to deal with it at home, but they can't force people outside of the family. She's going to be friendless. Not the asshole, exactly this. Keep setting those boundaries with her for your own sake. And try to prevent her from being an entitled brat. It's not really her fault, but that of the parents, as they are the ones enabling her. I agree that the parents are enabling her. I think that when the sister started acting like this as a baby or a little kid, the parents didn't want to deal with her throwing tantrums, so they just always gave in, and they continue to allow her to act that way. The sister will end up with no friends because she always wants things her way. Some people take this to adulthood with varying results. My dad and cousin are like this. My dad is over 60 and still lives off of his parents. He was forced to move out for a couple months as he wanted the rent-free apartment that my grandparents owned and provided him with to be his for free. My cousin blatantly lied that our grandma had promised him €1,000 after graduation, asking me to back him up as I was there when this completely fabricated conversation took place. I got a warm handshake when I graduated. He threw a tantrum and got the money. Welp, at least I have my dignity. Not the asshole. If your dad can't properly parent her, you are more than welcome to. You and her friends will show her that her behavior has repercussions. Going with not the asshole, maybe you could have phrased it better. I hope your parents see that your sister needs help. Having those kind of tantrums at 14 years old isn't normal anymore. Yes, not the asshole. In hindsight, you could have phrased it differently. This behavior seems excessively childish for a 14-year-old. I wonder if she needs to be professionally evaluated for some type of disorder. Do you know what her teachers say about her behaviors at school? And OP replies, most of the conversations with my parents and teachers/principal usually go something like this. Hey mum and dad, sister was being mean to other kids again. Can you talk to her? And my parents always reply with, oh, she's just having a bad day. Or, we'll get on it. And then they bribe her with new clothes, a new electronic, anything to get her to behave for a few weeks. They are ruining her. It's honestly probably a lost cause for you to try to correct her. You'll just be viewed as the mean older sibling and not what you are. Someone who sees this ending terribly and with her having a miserable, lonely life. And now on to the update. Before I get into this, no, my sister isn't special needs. If she were, this would have been a completely different situation. It isn't a grand update, but to answer the most asked questions, yes, my sister did go to school, and the two girls didn't want to talk to her, and one girl apparently posted about my sister on Snapchat and told everyone about how she acted, which caused other kids to make fun of her. And that, this is to those of you who threw a fuss at me for being nosy, or parenting my sister for trying to get my sister to chill out, caused my parents to ground me for not, and I quote, controlling her so her friends didn't leave. Lol? Anyways, a nice Redditor got in contact with me and helped me figure out a way to talk to my parents about getting therapy as long as it was religious-based, so they agreed to my sister getting therapy, but they are not too keen on the idea of family therapy. I don't think there is anything else to cover, so yeah, thank you to those who gave me advice and to everyone else for the kind words. It means a lot, really. And now in the comments, WTF? Why did you get called out originally for telling her the truth, then getting called out for not controlling her? OP, I hope that when you turn 18, you go far, far away from all of this. It sounds toxic and skewed towards favoring your sister, which is unfair to you. You deserve better. Much, much better. My parents used to do that to me. The fun part? She was the oldest, but I should have known better than to let her. Some parents are just crazy. I had the same problem. My sister is 4 years older. Once she was using a plug-in radio in the bathroom. I got yelled at for letting her do it, because I know better. Excuse me? Age difference? She's not mentally incompetent. My mother just couldn't bring herself to correct the golden child. Wait, what? Your dad gave her all the snacks when she threw a tantrum over snacks? Your dad drove the friends home when she threw a second tantrum over the movie, and somehow you were meant to control her when her father didn't. He can F right off with trying to pin his lack of parenting on you. None of this was your fault. I would tap out of trying to help any of them with her behavior. You were not responsible for her. OP replies, yeah, I told my mum what dad did, and she just scoffed. It's always been like this and always will be. I'm out of here soon, I'm not worried about it anymore, just keeping to myself from now on. Thank you. Take care, OP. It's hard to be in the position you have been put in, but you can't control other people, nor can you change them. Your sister will change when she needs to, but you don't have to wait till then to love your life. All the best. At this point, OP, it's time to start staying out of it and letting your sister suffer the consequences of her own behavior. She'll catch on soon enough if she wants to regain her friends, but no point in you getting grounded any more times. OP says, that's the plan. I'm gonna let whatever happens from here on out fall on my parents because I'm tired of being at fault every single time. I really hope therapy helps my sister, and that she'll come around sooner than later. Unexposed is titled, Am I the asshole for giving my fiancé an ultimatum about inviting his sister to our wedding? My sister-in-law and I have never got along. She's the kind of person to always do things on the expense of others. She's the kind of person to say or do something hurtful, but then claim that it's a joke. For example, some time ago, I had bought a bag. My sister-in-law was always saying how she was jealous that I had that bag. She kept joking about how she'll throw wine on it, because if she can't have nice things, then I can't either. At some point, she actually threw wine on my bag, totally ruining it. Another time on my birthday party, I was wearing a red velvet vintage dress, which used to be my mother's, and it has sentimental value. Throughout the whole party, my sister-in-law kept joking how she would throw me in the pool with a chlorine and ruin my dress. She then told me not to worry and she was joking. I was on guard about this, and so was my fiancé. She actually caught me off guard at some point and tried to throw me into the pool, but my friend pulled me and I didn't fall. I want to clarify that in every single situation my fiancé has fought with her and has defended me. After she tried that stunt with the dress and the pool, he gave her a warning that the next time she does something like that, she is out of our lives. She insisted she is just joking. Now she is joking that she will wear white to our wedding, and she might accidentally throw wine on my wedding dress. Having had enough of her jokes, I told my fiancé that she is no longer invited, and that I can't trust her since she always jokes, but then goes along with her plan. He reassured me that she wouldn't do it this time because he gave her a warning. I told her I can't trust her and I don't feel comfortable with her there. He then got mad that I implied his sister is not in our wedding. He told me, "Do you hear yourself? She's my sister, and you expect me to uninvite her just like that?" I told him I have valid reasons, and he thinks that she won't do it again. I told him that I won't go through with the wedding unless he agrees on uninviting his sister. He believes I'm the asshole for giving an ultimatum. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, not the asshole. Seriously reconsider marrying this man if he finds his sister's behavior to be forgivable. To put it another way, if you end up having kids, is she really someone you want them to have as an aunt? If you are not prepared to put your potential kids through her existence, then give yourself the same boundary. No telling what she would do to their child as a joke. I know a sister-in-law like this who purposely let her niece fall down the stairs because they were chubby and conventionally cute, while hers weren't as cute. Not according to me, but several people had commented, she also did other such jokes before this. I know this is petty and passive-aggressive as hell, but personally, I'd go through with the wedding, but refuse to sign the marriage certificate until the next day when everything was completely over. If at any point his sister did anything as a joke to ruin the day, walk the hell out right then and there. If the certificate isn't signed, you aren't legally married. She will show up at the wedding whether you invite her or not. She will wear white and throw wine on you. When she does, make a scene. A huge scene. Embarrass the living hell out of her and your new husband for having allowed this when you told him this would happen. Then promptly file for divorce. Not the asshole, don't get hitched to this family, your fiancé has already proven where his loyalties are. Not the asshole. She has proven on 2 separate occasions that she is willing to destroy your property and physically assault you after making a similar joke. What proof do you have that she will behave herself? I'd have sued her for the bag. That would have put a damper on her jokes. Times like this make me wish for an asshole deposit, like landlords have security deposits for rent. She wants to come to the wedding? Okay, put the cost of the wedding dress and some extra into escrow. She spills wine or makes a scene? That's coming out of her deposit. It won't make your wedding any less ruined, but perhaps the thought of her funding your honeymoon will make you smile. Not the asshole, because it sounds like your sister-in-law has burned her available chances and your fears are justified. Annulment deposit. Okay, fiancé, you don't think she'll actually do anything this time? If she does, annulment. Is he willing to bet his marriage on her behavior? That's what I thought. Okay, fiancé, but if she follows through with her threats, I am making a huge public scene and calling off the wedding in front of everyone. I don't care how far we are in. The paperwork hasn't been filed. I will completely walk out of your life if she does anything. Are you willing to risk this? And now on to the update. First of all, thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it. The final decision is that sister-in-law won't be invited. After the fight I had with my fiancé, he decided to speak with her one-on-one and make her swear that she won't pull anything. She kept laughing throughout their whole conversation and wasn't taking anything seriously. My fiancé kept trying to convince her to be serious, and the reply that set him off was, "And what if I'm not? What will you do? You'll kick me out. And if you kick me out, you know Mum and Dad will follow me. And then the main talk of your wedding will be about how you kicked your sister out and the drama." That made my fiancé make up his mind and tell her on the spot that she is not invited anymore. She threw a tantrum and said that she is the sister and we can't do this to her. She started crying and bombarding him with texts now about how she was not serious and she was joking and she's sorry. My fiancé told her no. He also decided to limit contact with her to the minimum. My in-laws are of course very angry about this, and as you can imagine, we got called many names for this decision. My fiancé told them that if they have a problem, they are free to not attend either. He told them to shut up or they'll be uninvited next, and he won't keep this conversation any longer. They shut up real quick after that. And edit, my wedding planner has also contacted 2 security guys for the night. We'll have security and make sure she has no access to the venue. Am I the asshole for changing the names of my babies? So, I and my husband are in the process of adopting 2 cute little twins that will be born in January. The biological mother is a young teenage girl, G, female 15, who doesn't want to keep them. She's the daughter of a friend of ours, and somehow it got through that we wanted to adopt, so her family called us as soon as they knew that G was pregnant. We have been with her all her pregnancy, and even if she doesn't want to be a mother, she will still be able to visit the twins as often as she wants because we live in the same city. As soon as we found out about the baby, we began looking for names, and when it was confirmed that there were going to be twins, a girl and a boy, we decided on the names Ellie and Evan. Last week, however, we were informed that G had chosen names herself, Walter and Agnes. She didn't choose them because of a relative, just because she thought they sounded cool. I don't think I have to mention how outdated the names are, and H and I simply don't like them. But even if the names were great, they are still our babies. We will raise them. G said she never wants to visit them, although she will probably change her mind. We insist on naming them. They will also get our last name and legally be our children, which was decided and agreed on 5 months ago. G's family is upset with us for not accepting their real names and is threatening to look for new parents. Her sister told us that they are just bluffing and hoping for us to back off. And now in the comments, Agnes might sound like an old lady name, but Ellie sounds like a perpetual toddler. Technically, you do get to name the children, but it really wouldn't hurt to use the biomum's choices as middle names. Please choose a full name for your daughter. Ellie is cute on a little girl. On a 40-year-old woman, not so much. You're the asshole. They aren't outdated, and they aren't yours. Just don't discuss it. Once you have them, they are yours, and you can name them what you will. This situation is going to get messy. She should not be naming them. She is clearly not ready for an open adoption. You are adopting the kids. You legally get to change their names. If your family friend wanted to keep the babies and name them, then that's on them, but they are letting you adopt them. I feel like it's bad taste to name babies that aren't really yours. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, but I would maybe not start arguments until the paperwork is all signed. Just I see how important it is to you. We'll think about it. Because until the ink is dry, I'm sorry to say, those babies aren't yours. You kind of have to respect the family's wishes. If they want to think of the babies as having certain names, they definitely can. If the girl's parents want to F up her life at 15 and force her to keep her babies just because they want control over how they are brought up, they definitely can. Once the babies are legally yours, then it's your rights that have to be respected. And now back up to the post, there is an edit. We are considering the name Ellie Agnes, but we will not name the boy Evan Walter. We are looking for a lawyer right now, and we do have everything in writing. They will become our legal children with no legal connection to G, her family, and their bio dad. Visitations only when H and I agree, which we are planning to do every time right now. We have talked to G's sister, and she told us that G begged her parents not to look for other couples, as she wants us as her baby's parents. She has been telling them that for the last few days. No idea why G's sister didn't tell us that before. Ellie's full name will be Eleanor, to honor H's late sister, but we will call her Ellie. And now on to the update. My husband and I sat down with G and talked to her for a long time. We apologized to her, saying that if we wanted an open adoption, we needed to all work together. She told us, as many Redditors had commented, and as we also thought, that it wasn't her idea to push the name. She apparently chose the names to say goodbye for what could have possibly been, wrote them down in her diary, and her mother found it. We talked to her for a while about the implications of adoption and asked if that's what she really wants, and she agreed. She's not in the right place to have a baby, let alone two, and raising them would not be in anyone's best interest. She said she does not want to be a mother, but thinks that it's best for the twins to know her, and she will visit occasionally. Maybe once every 2 weeks or more often. G wants to be introduced to the twins as Yimo, which means aunt, but it's also a title used to refer to any girl 1 or 2 generations above you. We discussed our possibilities and agreed that her family being in the life of the twins was not good for their development. The main point of the initial post was the naming issue. H and I agreed that we were being inconsiderate and unintentionally harming the twins. As many adoptees have told us in the comments, they loved their names given to them by their bio parents. We thought that it was best to name them together, as we will be their parents, but G will still be a prominent figure in their lives. We have decided on the names Alice Eleanor, Alice because it's cute and classy, Eleanor to honor H's late sister, and Finn Alexander. Finn chosen by G because of a Star Wars character, Alexander because it was on both of our top 5 names lists. Their Korean names will be decided by a naming expert after their birth, and we 3 will, again, choose the names together. After the conversation with G about her decision to adopt, we 3 sat down with her parents and talked about our boundaries. They consider the babies to be shameful and would, quote, rather die than accept them as our own blood. Therefore, they will not be a part of their lives. They argued for a short while, but then agreed that it's for the best. When the babies are old enough to decide if they want to meet them, they can, but we don't think they would be a good influence at the time. For the people who asked about the bio-dad, he also understands the implications of adoption and is okay with it. He does not wish to know the twins and doesn't want us to tell them who he is. Edit, for all the people telling me that naming experts don't exist and therefore I must be lying, I'm half Korean. My husband is Korean, the twins will grow up in Korea. Therefore, we are following the Korean tradition to go to a person that happens to be called naming expert, and they pick out a list of about 20 names. It has to do with astrology, shamanism, name mixing, and many more things. It's a thing in many Asian countries. From my personal experience, at least in Korea and Japan, and as other Redditors have commented, also in India and China. And now in the comments, yay to proper communication. That's usually the key if all parties are fairly reasonable people. Glad you found a middle ground. And edit to say I love the name Eleanor. It's so amazing when adults actually have proper communication and avoid the drama. But it's actually quite sad that we are surprised when it actually happens. We are too used to miscommunication leading to drama. Am I the asshole for not letting my daughter play with my neighbor's kids? So I have a daughter 6 who plays outside every day. She usually hangs around the same group of kids. One of these kids we'll call Jared, who is 5-ish male, and Jared's parents are neglectful, to say the least. He will show up outside wearing the same outfit for days in a row, visibly dirty, and constantly trying to stick toys in his mouth. His parents are capable of bathing and changing him, they are just too lazy and spend their time drinking. When any of us, the neighbors, try to help, we get yelled at, saying that we're embarrassing their family, insulting their parenting, etc., etc. Well, yesterday, I noticed my boy is scratching his head. I'm not talking a light scratch, I mean he's really going at it. I instantly knew what that scratch was from and called my daughter and niece over. They tell me no, their heads haven't itched, but I checked anyways and lo and behold, lice. I immediately called them inside and go to the pharmacy to get lice shampoo because that crap spreads like wildfire, and no thank you. I get the girls treated and everything is good. Today rolls around and it's raining, so no outside time. Neighborhood kids know they're welcome in our house, so usually they just stroll in with a quick hello and start playing. When Jared comes in, I immediately tell him he has to go home. I don't tell him why, I just say gently that he can't stay over today. He runs out, crying, and about 5 minutes later his parents show up, demanding to know why I won't let him inside. I told them he has lice, and I don't want it getting in my house. They both proceed to yell and scream about how I could say that, saying I'm calling their son dirty, and how it's not fair the other kids can play inside, but theirs can't. I told them the reason the other kids could play and theirs couldn't is because I talked with their parents and all kids have been checked and cleared or treated. After listening to them berate me, I more or less told them it's not my fault they'd rather buy alcohol than clean up their son and buy him lice treatment. They called me an asshole for not letting their son in and finally left. My husband says I could have been kinder about it, but after months of washing this kid up when he's over, feeding him because his parents forget, and even washing his clothes, I'm tired of being a third parent to a child I hold no relationship to. So Reddit, am I the asshole? Also wanted to add CPS is not a thing in my country, police won't do anything as the child isn't in immediate harm. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I may be the asshole for outcasting a child for something out of his control. Now in the comments, your job is to protect your child and your home, and that's just what you are doing. I feel bad for that other kid having those kinds of parents. If those parents would actually care for their child, they'd have nothing to be embarrassed about. They are only embarrassing themselves. And OP says, they are very embarrassing. It's scary to see just how little they care for him. He didn't ask to be in this world, yet they act like he ruined their lives. If you are willing to deal with the potential fallout, i.e. angry parents, it might be worth to call CPS or your equivalent to try to get a wellness check on a kid who is clearly being neglected. But that's not your job, and I would not demand anyone but mandatory reporters to make that call. Not the asshole whatever you do. Not the asshole. Would it be possible to give the boy the same treatment that you gave your girls? I know he's not your kid, but I doubt the parents will actually cure him. Again, no obligation to do so, but if you have extra shampoo, that would be very kind. OP says, my husband says we should let him in and treat his hair, but I'm afraid of what his parents would do because kids do talk, and I'm not sure how effective it would be seeing as they wouldn't pay for laundry service to have his clothes and sheets properly washed. Maybe I'll try the old school combing his hair daily and see if it helps. Good thought, but it won't help unless you keep him out of his own house. I was in a school, and the nurse was treating a kid for lice. Nurse told me that she treated this kid regularly because her house was infested. Yes, I'm sure all it would do is temporary relief, which isn't enough in a situation like this. Poor kid. Not the asshole for not letting him in because lice frickin' suck. I feel bad for that little boy. And OP replies, my heart breaks when I see him. He's constantly running on the road and motorcycles drive fast. I'm afraid if he gets hurt, his parents either won't care or will just want the payout. I just don't understand why they won't let us help. And now onto the update. First off, I just want to say thank you to all the kind people who gave me advice. One comment stood out to me and gave me a really good idea, and after talking with my husband, we got some things together and got it handled. Yesterday, me and my husband went to Jared's house and spoke with his parents. I basically said that I was to blame for the lice, and I apologized profusely for the trouble I had caused. I said as an apology, I'd like to have their house deep cleaned. I'm talking treatments on all furniture, carpet, anything and everything lice could be on. I said I'd personally take all of their clothes to the laundry shop to be treated, and I'd like to bring Jared to my house to treat his head myself, as well as give them the shampoo and medicine to treat themselves. They saw my offer as very generous and accepted. So we spent the entire day treating their clothes, Jared, and even bought a few drinks to keep them distanced while we treated Jared. Jared got a meal, got cleaned up, and all is well in the neighborhood again. Now he is welcome inside my house to play and get his belly full. Again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who commented. Doing these things weren't cheap, but it was well worth it to have that sweet boy taken care of. And now in the comments, how very kind of you. I'm sure this meant the world to Jared. Good on you. And OP says, he was thrilled. Poor thing had blisters. Not sure the proper word, sorry, from scratching his head so much. You could see the relief. That little boy is going to remember you throughout his entire life as the woman who opened her heart and home to him when his own parents weren't competent enough to help him. That was immensely generous and tactful of you. I'm glad that kid has you in their corner. And OP says, I got the idea from a comment on my original post. They said their mom had done the same thing just to get a little girl out of a bad situation. I knew I wanted to treat his hair, but it would have been useless if his bedclothes and clothes weren't done too. Thank you for your kind words. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for inserting myself into someone else's dinner situation? Okay, I know the title is confusing, but hear me out. I went out to eat with my boyfriend and 2 other couples. For some context, I am a mother to a 5-year-old, who is not my boyfriend's child. So, 2 tables away was a new parent couple, and what I can only assume was the guy's parents. I assumed this because I was that girl when I first had my child. Out to dinner with your father's child and his family, and baby is being fussy. You are struggling, and no one is helping you. Baby's crying for about 15 minutes now, all while the father, or no one else for that matter, is offering her any help or a break so she can at least have a bite of her food that's been sitting there cold for about 30 minutes. I really just wanted to run to her, grab the baby for a bit, and tell her to eat. This is where I might have been an asshole. Baby is crying, again, no one is paying attention, and she goes to comfort the baby and breastfeed. Well, all of a sudden, she's the center of attention. Baby's father says, "What are you doing? That's disgusting. Go to a stall in the bathroom." At this point, I lost it. My boyfriend was trying to calm me down the entire time, telling me it's none of my business, but I just went ham. I got up from my table, walked over, and I told him if he found it so disgusting, why doesn't he go eat his sandwich on the toilet? I said she's been struggling, hasn't had a bite to eat while all three of you sit there enjoying yourselves and letting her drown. And then I said loud enough that the tables around could hear that anyone who is offended by a woman breastfeeding needs to get checked, because breasts weren't for men to suck on for pleasure, they were made for feeding, and that's exactly what she's doing. No one said anything, but she also didn't go to the bathroom, and she finished her baby, who calmed down, and she was able to eat. My boyfriend is upset I caused a scene in front of some of his friends, and everyone really at the restaurant. But I just couldn't sit back and watch and say nothing. So Reddit, am I the asshole for inserting myself and yelling at strangers? Now in the comments, not the asshole. You waited, assessed the situation, and responded accordingly. I think if anything, the fact that she continued to feed her child proved just how thankful she was for blowing up on them. There was a time in the US where breastfeeding in public was normal and not demonized as disgusting behavior. It's normal in other parts of the world. Not the asshole. Your boyfriend is, however. If he is more worried about causing a scene than sitting there and watching this poor woman struggle and get berated for feeding her baby, then he ought to be checked as well. God forbid you were ever in a situation where you were struggling. Like, would he rather you struggle than somebody defend you? You rock, OP. There is a good amount of assholes in this story, but you are not one of them. That caused a scene quip bothered me. OP didn't cause that. The scene was already taking place. She effectively ended the scene by getting involved as she did. The boyfriend's willingness to berate OP for coming to another woman's defense like that really shows his true colors, in my opinion, and makes me think that he would very much leave OP to drown if she were the breastfeeding woman in the scenario. Life pro tip, if you defend someone who is in a shitty, bullying situation, like the young mother was here, and the person you were with witnesses the bullying and then chides you for speaking up against it, that witness is part of the problem. A volunteer flying monkey. Not the asshole, and I think you're amazing. No, it wasn't any of your business, but it's important to stand up for people. It says a lot about your character. Good for you. I know, right? I want to be friends with OP. She sounds like a badass in a wonderful way. Not the asshole, of course. You're amazing for doing that. I bet she will remember that forever, and I know I would. Also, women should support and stick up for other women, which is exactly what you did. Super proud of you over here. And sorry, but your boyfriend sounds like public opinion is more important to him than doing what you feel is right. That's a problem. Your boyfriend's attitude and quiet complicity are how all these abusive status quos, like systemic sexism and racism, stay in place, not the asshole. And OP replies, thank you so much. And to everyone, really. I definitely could have been nicer, but as someone who was out in that position, I just couldn't help myself. I spoke to my boyfriend, and he says that I embarrassed him and wants me to now apologize to his friends. I told him no because I don't think that saying something for her was wrong. None of his friends or him have kids, so I feel like they just don't get it. New mums struggle. I did, and never got any help or anyone to stand up for me. It took years of therapy, I'm still in therapy, to realize I was doing the most and exhausting myself, and everyone, most importantly my daughter's dad, was doing the least. Yeah, if your boyfriend is embarrassed by you doing that, sounds like he's no catch. Having a baby is hard as hell. We need help. We cannot do it alone. My daughter is 7, and even now I'm like, wait a minute, why am I the only one who does this task or thing? I have a husband too, and he actually does a lot, but there is still the mental load, and I do all emotional labor for her and myself because he is a robot in that area. It sucks and it's really hard. I'm sending you and the poor restaurant woman good vibes. And OP replies to that, thank you so much. That's the same thing with my daughter's father. He's great with her. We successfully co-parent and all that, but at the end of the day, I'm doing most of the emotional labor. My daughter's dad has to call me every time she has a bad day at school, or anything really to comfort her. I jokingly asked him what was her pediatrician's name. She's been seeing him since 6 months, and he had no idea. It is easy to dismiss the minimal work we do, but that's what keeps things going. And now back up to the post. Just some clarification after all the comments. I do agree and feel terrible that I could have put her in a position to get yelled at later. That wasn't my intention. I saw red, mostly because I have been through exactly this and have gone home in tears and feeling alone. I would normally not get into anyone's business. I appreciate all your feedback, and for sure, next time I feel the urge to say something, I'm going to take a breath and find a better way to communicate that doesn't put anyone in danger or interrupt other people. My boyfriend is still not talking to me until I apologize, because again, I embarrassed him, regardless of the reason. I feel like I should just send a text to his friends and keep it moving. And now on to the update. Wow guys, thank you for all the responses, support, advice, and criticism. These past 24 hours have been crazy, so here is a quick update. I mentioned in a previous comment, but will say again, that the young mum did give me a smile as we were saying our goodbyes in the parking lot and they were leaving. In terms of this situation, like I said, I could have had more tact and really hoped that I didn't expose her to more abuse in retaliation. As for my boyfriend, well, now ex, because he broke up, well, told me that he needed space with me. I showed him the thread and this is what happened. 1. Super pissed that I posted on here. Why am I putting our business on the internet? And basically I wanted people to turn against him? What? And more attention than I already took at the restaurant. 2. One of his friends is very conservative, and while his friend didn't actually say anything to my ex, he says his friend was definitely offended by the breastfeeding at the table because it is not hygienic. He doesn't agree that she should have gone to the bathroom, but it wasn't the appropriate place to feed. And 3, one of the things he liked about me was how I kept my mum life separate from my relationship with him, and that while he was weirded out that I never invited him to my house the entire time we've been dating, which has been 2 years, he appreciated not having to be involved because he has never wanted kids. He doesn't like them. So basically, I set a boundary from the beginning of no kid stuff, and I crossed it at the restaurant and made a big scene in front of his friends, who he says were also embarrassed but weren't going to say anything. So, like, this is all still going on. I'm a bit sad, like maybe I did do the most, but also I'm like, F him. Since me and my daughter's dad split 50-50, I can see how someone can see me and not realize that I'm a whole-ass mother. The reason I don't let people I'm dating come to my house is because at the end of the day, I don't know these people from Adam. Like, did you torture animals as a child? I don't know. Shrug. And rather than expose my daughter to variables, guys' characters or behaviors, I prefer if they don't have access. I know it may sound crazy or weird, but when I was in college, a guy I dated would show up to my apartment drunk, yelling for me outside my window. So I'm not leaving the door even cracked for something like this to happen and my daughter to be home with me. She would be terrified. So what he said was he needed a break, and I just said, let's not do this at all because it's not gonna work. For sure, I set boundaries with my kid, but if anything involving my kid is a problem, then we aren't going to work, because again, I am a mother. And even on my days off, I'm on call because anything can happen, and I need to be there regardless. Thank you guys for all of your responses. It's hard sometimes when things blow up like this to whisk away the bullcrap and see things for what they are. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for asking my sister and brother-in-law to move out after 3 years of supporting them after family tragedy? About 3 years ago, my sister and her husband lost 3 young children in a really bad car accident. My sister barely survived but pulled through. They had 2 daughters who were 8, 6, and a 3-year-old son. I won't go into specifics surrounding the accident or their deaths because it's quite frankly horrific. My sister and I are 10 months apart and have always been extremely close. At the time of my nieces and nephews' deaths, I was living alone in a 3-bedroom home and offered for them to live with me. They were both, understandably, too unable to function to go back to work, and we all needed each other. I didn't want them to have to worry about money or losing their home after what had happened. I have supported them emotionally and financially pretty much ever since it happened. They both refused to go to therapy and still both aren't working. I have a good job, but it's not an easily manageable thing, and I didn't really expect it to go on so long. About 1.5 years ago, I met my current fiancé. We clicked immediately and got engaged 6 months later. We are due to get married next October. I've been trying to drop hints to my sister about why wanting my house back to myself to live in with my fiancé, but she is not picking up on it. My fiancé has grown increasingly frustrated with me, saying I'm obviously being taken advantage of. Last weekend, I straight up told my sister that I needed to talk to her and told her that I wanted my house back and to live with my partner alone before getting married and starting to have children. She got upset and went running to our mum, who called me an asshole for not considering how my sister would feel about that. It hasn't been mentioned since, but both my sister and brother-in-law are hardly talking to me. Am I the asshole? Now in the comments, not the asshole. 3 years is long enough. If they still aren't ready to go out on their own, your mother can take them in. It sounds like the mum is volunteering to take them in herself. Clear not the asshole. There is literally no amount of time that's going to make the OP's sister feel better. Death of your children is not a thing that you get over, no matter if you go 1 billion hours of therapy. I'm not saying it would be wasteful or that therapy is useless, just that having therapy or not is irrelevant in this scenario of the moving out request. Given this, it is unreasonable to expect OP will have to sacrifice her life / put it on hold indefinitely to defer to someone else. OP's sister should be very grateful and in turn be supportive. Not the asshole. What are their plans for the future besides to mooch off of you? It's been 3 years. It's completely fair for you to ask them what their plans are. Yes, they went through something horrible, but you have been incredibly accommodating and have given them lots of time to heal. Giving you silent treatment in your own home is unacceptable. And OP replies, they never talk about the future. I have absolutely no idea what their plans are. I think it's time for that conversation. Call a house meeting, sit them down and ask them what they plan on doing in the near and distant future. They'll accuse you of all sorts of terrible things, but it's been 3 years. Time has not stood still, even if they want to believe that it has. Not the asshole. And furthermore, they will likely never break out of this cycle unless they are forced to. In the long run, this will be much better for them. Maybe have a talk with your mum so she understands more clearly and doesn't become the next roommate. OP replies, I've spoken to my mum about it, but she's also pretty much refuses to talk about it. Well, screw it then. Sell the house and move in with your fiancé. They will figure themselves out really quick. That's the most expensive conflict avoidance I've ever seen. I mean, if it were my house, I would have not let it go for 3 years. OP seems extremely conflict avoidant, so here we are. Don't go there. OP could have been the best person in the world at enforcing their boundaries prior to their niece's and nephew's death. OP, like their sister and brother-in-law, suffered a horrible traumatic loss a few years ago. I'd be surprised if they hadn't slipped into some unhealthy family dynamics while coping and grieving. They shouldn't tolerate this, but there is no need to attack OP's character because of it. And now onto the update. Thank you all for the comments and messages I've received over the last day. They've really been appreciated. I had a talk with my sister last night and it began the usual way, with her avoiding the situation. I told her if she left and wasn't able to have an adult conversation, I would be forced either to take legal action or sell the house. Both empty threats, but it worked. She broke down, told me she knew she needed help, but didn't want to accept it, and that she'd be willing to go even if her husband doesn't. I haven't talked to her much about leaving, but her admitting that she needs help is a huge step, so I'm not going to push for more just yet. Thank you for all of your help. Anyway guys, that is where I'm going to end the episode for today. If you enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up on this video. I would love you so much for that. Do it, come on. Go down there and do it before you leave, please. But, as always, with that said, you're beautiful, you're doing a good job today, I'm proud of you. And as always, I do hope you're having a good day, or night, or sleep, or just whatever the heck you're up to, and I will see you in the next episode. Until then, bye.